All right, folks. Well, we usually don't do dinner on tastings on a Monday night here. Sunday and Monday are kind of like my religious nights with my family. Not that I go to church or anything like that, but I do like to spend at least 1 or 2 nights a week with the kids and the wife around the dinner table. And Monday is usually a bad night to do events, anyways. But if you are the proprietor of a great winery like Domaine Huet, which a lot of people would say this wine is Huet, because usually you wouldn't pronounce a T at the end of the French language. There's only 4 consonants so you pronounce at the end of a French word. C, R, F, and L. And T ain't one of them, but there's a little accent over the E, so it's Huet. And then the other winery that the family actually got into the business with, Királyudvar. Királyudvar? I don't know. This is a very hard one to pronounce for me for some reason. But a great winery. And, the master himself was one of the guys from Hungary, Sepsi, that got these guys interested in doing business in Hungary. And he also helped them out get started. He's no longer involved in the winery. Sarah kind of just glossed that one over. I didn't get the story on that, what happened with these guys. But something must have happened. But Sarah worked at Acre, Maryland Conduit to learn about the retail and about the wholesale distribution side of the business. She's got a crash course in working not only for the retail and distribution side, she's also worked harvest in Hungary and in the Loire Valley. So in the short course of time, this young lady has an incredible portfolio, an incredible resume, rather, for the work she's done in the wine business. And don't mistake this girl is just another pretty face, because in addition to being a beautiful young lady, she is also very knowledgeable, very passionate. And after meeting her just one time, having a daughter and son myself, she gave me inspiration to carry on. Hopefully the kids will want to carry on the family business and have a passion for it, like Sarah does for both of these wineries. And like I said, she seems incredibly knowledgeable, not only about both of these wineries, but about the wine industry in general. So it was really great to break bread with her, even though there was only like 6 customers here. Hey, these guys were our most serious wine lovers. Well, our brown bag crowd had one table, and then it was the rest of us at the other table, the guys from Augustin and Sarah. And what a great evening. And that's one of the great things about the Wine Watch. We can sit down and have dinner with 10 people, 20 people, or 100 people, and it's still somewhat intimate here. We got a nice small setting in our new room here. We put our new benches to work for the second time, very comfortable. And Tony produced another outstanding meal for us. It went beautifully with the wines. One of the things I was worried about was the short rib course, and then Sarah said, man, we just had this with short ribs, and it was fabulous. That cherry sauce really helped to pull it together. Well, we had 6 wines last night. The first wine, the Pétillant, about 50% of the production in Vouvray is sparkling, which a lot of people don't know. And these wines usually not quite as much effervescence as the champagnes do, and they also have different varietals. This is 100% Chenin Blanc. This is the only wine, well, they make 2 wines that are a blend of the 3 single vineyards, Huet, Clos de Bourg, and Huet, Clos de Bourg, and Le Mans. Okay. And we have all 3 of them here in the store. But I've been a follower of Domaine Huet's wines for a long time. I used to buy them from Chatterton, and Robert Chatterton no longer carries the brand, but they're with another great importer of the rare wine company, Vins, out of Sonoma County, California, the great Manny Burke, and a fabulous portfolio, and some very eclectic, hard to sell wines. And these guys have, they're the largest importer of Madeira, for God's sake, one of the hardest wines in the world to sell, but one of the greatest, in my opinions. I've never seen more eyes open than people that have tried great Madeira for the first time. The same with the great sweet wines of the Loire Valley. People that love sweet wines don't realize that they have such great sweet wines in the Loire. But hey, we're talking about the sparkling, which is another thing that people don't realize. Very good sparkling wines. This wine had a lovely lemon, kind of citrus, pear fruit on the nose, with a little bit of flinty note here also. Lovely freshness on the tongue with a light spritz, some nectarine, citrus, and lovely floral notes. Kind of leaves the tongue salivating for food. Really fresh, a light and refreshing style sparkler. Very good stuff. And then the Királyudvar, the ferments, and this is a site that Tony Wang brought his family to in 1997 to Hungary to vacation, and being a wine lover, he said we have to go visit Tokaj, we have to see the vineyards there, and I guess they met Sepsi at that point, and they saw this property that was made up of 6 different vineyard sites. It was planted when they bought it, but this is an area that went through a lot of economic turmoil, communism, and the vineyards were overproducing. They were riddled with chemical fertilizers, so they're still kind of recovering from the damage that was done to them during this regime. And these guys fell in love with the land and, started working it. And it's amazing what they've done in just a few short years here. And this wine, the ferment grape, not a household name, but, kind of an interesting wine. Had a unique bouquet of kind of tobacco and mint nuance to the tangerine, citrus, a little flinty character, and sweet tart-like fruit on the palate with a nice freshness and balance. A really good wine. It was made for the first time, as I mentioned before, in 2006. So one of the Tony innovations here, since he's taken over the winery, decided, hey, we want to make a dry wine instead of, just sweet wine. Next up, we had the Huet Sec, which the 2009 looks like a very good vintage in Vouvray. 08, they had just massive floods. Just Google Vouvray flooding and you'll see what happened to Vouvray in 2008. This estate was established, this was the original vineyard by Gaston and his father, and this was in 1928, I believe. So, Gaston has become a major political figure. He's been the mayor of Vouvray, and he's, on many boards and all these other things. So, unfortunately, his son, he has, I think, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Neither one of his sons wanted to get involved with the winery, but luckily, her daughter's husband was very interesting in Noel in winemaking, and he is now the winemaker there and carrying on the family tradition along with the Wang family of this great property from the Loire Valley, from Vouvray. And Gaston is so famous; he's mentioned in several books. Wine and War is one of them. You'll find his name mentioned in being a hero, having saved the town, and all these other great things, and just being a larger than life figure. It would be horrible to have a huge company take over a small domain like this. I think it's much better in the hands of the Wang family and Noel, Gaston's daughter's husband. So this Sec in 2009 may be a little young. These wines need a little bit of time. It's got some lovely aromas of pear, apricot, and peach. That defining minerality that is the Vouvray, that undertone of chalk and limestone. Very fresh, lovely, and layered on the tongue. And really needed some time to open up. After an hour or two, this wine really started to open up on the nose. And a little bit of bitterness, kind of like a lemon citrus rind bitterness on the finish, which actually lent itself very nice to the course we served it with, a burrata with a little broccoli rapini. That bitterness matched really nicely with us. But I'd like to see this wine with a couple more years of bottle age. Next up, the Molyeu. I'm horrible at pronouncing French words. I like to pronounce them incorrectly just for the fun of it. But I did take French and fail it, as I mentioned, in high school and in college. The Molyeu, a dessert-style wine. This wine had also that flinty note to the bouquet with a white peach and apricot kind of fruit. Pretty floral nuance to this. Really also seemed to come around as it opened 08. With all the rains, probably better the botrytis-sized wines because of all the moisture there than the dry wines. Had a lovely sweet tart-like fruit on the palate with a lovely creamy texture on the tongue. Lots of richness and a firm hand of underlying acidity. Very long and complex and excellent wine that just needs a little bit of time. Next up, I decided to open up some from my stash. I've got some Clos de Bourg, which those of you that were here, it did say it was Holieu last night, but it is not. It was Clos de Bourg. Trust me. I got the empty bottle right here, okay? And this 1996 vintage, a great vintage, as Sarah pointed out. This is a vintage that was beautiful on release and has been drinking beautiful its whole life. Most great vintages will shut down at a certain point. This one has just continued to drink good and never really shut down. But really has a lovely aroma too and a precociousness. It's got that lovely peach and apricot kind of fruit, a little bit of that honey also showing up, which you get in botrytis-sized wines that have been aged, a lovely hibiscus flower, lovely concentration and depth on the palate, and just a really long and complex finish, a lovely bottle of Molyeu. And then up the Királyudvar Cuvée Ilona, which this is another Tony Huang innovation. This is named after his wife. Actually, it's the Hungarian translation of what her name would be. And then this is made with grape bunches that have partially botrytis-sized, partially shriveled bunches that are not macerated. So it's not a technique that they typically use, that they've used in Hungary to make wines before. This is something that Tony came up with, and a really, a bit sweeter than the Molyeu 96, but had lovely concentration and depth, and also lovely balanced acidity. And that's one of the things great sweet wines need. In order to balance out the sweetness, you need to have that acidity for them to live a long time, or they'll become cloying. And this wine had lovely acidity and a long finish. Most excellent juice. Great stuff, Sarah. thank you very much for hosting the dinner last night with us. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.